Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello.
We're bringing you our first Persian general today. And I've based all the generals on slightly larger bases than the normal troops that we've got. So the generals are based on 40mm bases, and I made a little bit of a vignette out of each of them to make them look a little bit different. And this one is General Mardonius stood over the dead body of the Spartan king Leonidas. So that's Leonidas covered in arrows, all nice and dead, and that's Mardonius stood over the top of him. What do you think?
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
I think we haven't seen the movie yet.
Well, if you don't know Leonidas died at this point, then I don't know what you've been doing. You've had 2,500 years to hear about the story. So, yeah. Mardonius. Shall we go into Mardonius?
Yeah.
He was the uncle of... Darius was his uncle. He was also his father-in-law and his half-brother.
Okay.
Due to the complex way that all the generals married each other's wives and daughters and sons and stuff. So it's a little bit complex, which made him Xerxes' uncle and brother. Or brother-in-law, stepbrother.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, well, it's because Cyrus had a big powerful general who was really good, and the powerful general married Cyrus's son married his general's daughter, and the son was the general's son was Mardonius, which means that they were technically brother-in-law and cousins, or no, it's complex. Just imagine the normal family in a British single state. That's basically what you've got. Everyone's related to each other.
Right.
Yeah, so they all sort of married each other and stuff. It was for political gain, really. It was to try and keep power among a certain group of people. You all marry each other. Look at the kings of Europe. Like, technically the Queen of England is related to the old Kaiser of Germany and the Tsar of Russia and stuff like that. It's all in there, so. Yeah. Anyway, that's the guy. He became a general sometime after the death of Cyrus. Darius became king, and he backed Darius to become king. Because there wasn't actually a line of succession. There was no reason that there would be a monarchy. They hadn't set it up as a monarchy. Cyrus just conquered the Persian Empire, and then actually it was due to a war with the Babylonians that he ended up building an empire. He went to war with the Babylonians and then ended up building an empire off the back of that. Same as the Romans, they sort of fell into an empire. They didn't set out and say, let's conquer an empire. They were at war with different people, and when they won the war, they occupied the country. Until they realised they occupied most of the Mediterranean. Because the Greeks had been allied to the Carthaginians. When they defeated the Greeks, they ended up ruling Greece. And then they ended up destroying Carthage, which meant that they owned Spain and all that territory. So the Romans sort of looked into an empire rather than deliberately setting out to set one up. So, yeah. Anyway, so Mardonius was... He kind of came to prominence at the time of the Ionian Revolt, which is when Athens backed a series of rebellions against Persian rule, sorry. The Athenians sent some troops, and so did some other states, and there was a big war, and they burnt Sardis, the Persian capital of Ionia. Not because they actually deliberately set out to burn it, it's just they captured it by accident and didn't know what to do with it, and someone threw a firebrand somewhere and the city caught fire, so then they left. So Mardonius was a general during the Ionian Revolt. Later on, as time passed, the Greeks, I've already gone through, you should already know this, but I'll just run very, very quickly through. Artaphernes was the ruler of Mysia at the time. He was one of Darius's generals. His son would fight at the Battle of Thermopylae. And the Greeks were wanting to overthrow their tyrant, so they went over and asked the Persians to come and help. And the Persians said, yeah, we'll have some water. The Greeks said, there's water. The Greeks didn't understand what it meant, and they ended up, there was a huge war and stuff. So, long story short, they ended up at war. And Mardonius was put in charge of the operations against Greece, the invasion of Greece, which would eventually end in the Battle of Marathon.
So was he one of, well, I don't need to do questions now, but I'm going to do questions with you.
Go, feel free,
yeah.
feel free.
So was he one of the greatest generals in Persia? Is that
Yes.
why he was sent against the Greeks?
Yes, but he didn't fight at the Battle of Thermopylae. He was fired before then.
And why was he fired?
Well, okay, we're going to have to get through this whole thing, aren't we? Alright, he was a very smart man. Now, the funny thing is, most of what we know about him, at least his personality, is from Herodotus. And the problem is, Herodotus describes him as an evil villain who drank the blood of children and would whip his slaves to death. Actually, I'm exaggerating. But he didn't like, he didn't like the guy. And he had nothing nice to say about him. But he must have been pretty good because he was a very good general. He knew what he was doing. And if you look through his campaign against the whole Greek war, his campaign was actually spot on. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't a fool. And the first thing he did, because he knew he was going to be invading Greece, he knew that he would have enemy states on his lines of supply, or states that aren't exactly secure. So he went all through Ionia, which is modern-day Turkey. They were all Greek city-states who had been occupied by the Persians. And he overthrew all of the satraps, the tyrants that Darius had set up. He overthrew all the original tyrants, and he made them all democracies. He sort of forced them at knife point to become democracies. And probably the reason he did this was democracies don't tend to rebel. They tend to vote and stuff, or argue about it. And that meant that these democracies were now on his lines of supply instead of these tyrants, or these countries ruled by tyrants, which were dictatorships, and they were constantly having to put down rebellions. And of course, whenever a tyrant had a rebellion, he called on the Persian army to come and help, because he only had his own palace guard, he didn't have a standing army. So the Persians would have to send a few thousand soldiers to come and put down the revolt. And so he probably had a very good understanding of politics, because if he has democracies on his lines of supply, he has a way of having a release valve, so chances are the states aren't going to revolt, because they have a relative amount of freedom under the Persian authority. Does that follow? Do you understand? Yeah, so he carried on going. He fought his way all through Thrace. The whole way, he had his land army on land, but he also had the navy just off the coast. That meant he could send messages very quickly. He could contact high command back in Sardis. He could supply his troops, so the ships could always carry more supplies for his troops, so his troops would never go hungry. He could always get reserve troops brought up from Ionia at any point. And he followed the coast with his army and conquered his way all the way to Greece, which is a fair distance to go. Eventually he ended up fighting in Eritrea, where his camp had gone to sleep for the night, and the barbarians, who were southern Europeans, or one of the tribes of southern Europe, they attacked his camp at night. The Persians did manage to chase off the barbarians, but Mardonius himself was wounded. He was shot by an arrow and he was wounded. Anyway, he carried his campaign on until he got right into the Greek border. He was actually invading Greece. And then there was a really, really, really bad storm, and his ships sank. About 300 ships sank, 20,000 men died. That ruined his navy, the navy that he'd been given by Darius to invade Greece. So he did the logical thing for a commander, acting on the end of his lines of supply. He decided to withdraw and cancel the invasion of Greece. Now, as he advanced, he'd set up a communication network, which is stables every 20 miles with a set of horses. And you could send a message very quickly, because the horse would ride really fast, the message would ride really fast to the next staging post, jump on a new horse, ride really fast to the next staging post, jump on a new horse, and keep riding all the way down, and so you could send messages very quickly. So Darius heard about this, got really annoyed, and removed him of command. He then put Artaphernes and Datus in charge of the army, and they're the ones who invaded Greece. And they're the ones who ended at the Battle of Marathon, where the Persian army was broken, was defeated at the Battle of Marathon. Follow me?
Yep.
Big embarrassment. Darius vows to destroy Greece eventually because he's been embarrassed. Unfortunately, because they lost the Battle of Marathon, all these little countries all over said, hey, the empire suddenly looks weak, let's rebel. He had a major rebellion in Egypt, so Darius, instead of invading Greece, had to send his army to Egypt. He'd spent ages building an army up ready to invade Greece. He went over to Egypt and he died there. He was wounded and he died of, lack of medicine, really.
So in the film he dies.
He's shot by Themistocles in the film,
Yeah.
but that's not that wasn't Darius that died there. It was one of the field admirals. Actually, another brother of Darius. Actually, a cousin of Darius, the stepbrother of Xerxes. Is it? Or who cares? Anyway, Xerxes comes to power, and Xerxes, unlike the film 300, does not want vengeance against the Greeks particularly. That was his dad's war. So he sends out a tentative message to the Greeks saying, look, why don't you just chill out? Just accept the empire and we'll call it quits. We're not going to occupy you. You can actually stay satraps. You can stay, have your own governments. We're not going to occupy you or anything.
And then you call for soldiers.
Yeah, well, then they got thrown off a cliff.
The Greeks don't want to give soldiers to Persia.
No, they didn't. No.
That's why they fought a war after all.
Because the Persians wouldn't pay for it. If he'd have gone to the Greeks and said, look, we'll pay you huge amounts of money to send soldiers to fight for us, the Greeks would have said, cash in, mate, and that's fine. Don't mind renting out soldiers to fight. But yeah, it's the whole voluntary giving soldiers thing. But there were lots of other things going on. I have gone into more detail on this. I'm giving you the really simple version. So Xerxes then decides he's going to go to war with Greece. Now, according to Herodotus, it was actually Mardonius, his uncle and brother, complicated, who was sat at his side saying, you need to attack the Greeks, you need to attack the Greeks. Of course, Mardonius had been out of favour since he was fired by Darius. So he spent 10 years in the political no man's land, probably living in a small villa, eating dates, in a really bad mood, not able to shout at people and order people around. And so now his brother was king, or stepbrother, whatever. Now his cousin uncle was king. He tried to push him to go to war because he knew that would give him the power back that he wanted. This is how Herodotus writes it. So take your pick. So he appoints.
You can't take everything off one man.
Exactly, that's the problem.
Because this guy's been working for what?
Herodotus, who was Greek.
Right,
Yeah,
so it's a
and
Greek guy
he needed
knowing
to-
every single thing about the Persians.
Yeah, and he needed to. Oh no, he questioned everyone. He used Herodotus actually just went around and questioned people who were there, and he said, "What happened?"
They're all going to give you their side of the story.
Yes, and he wrote it all
I'm
down.
going to make it sound cool.
Yeah, and he wrote it all down. So he'll say this happened on this day, but this other guy says this happened. So you actually get multiple accounts.
You're
and he doesn't-
stupid.
No, but it makes more sense than the way we present history. We present history, and the Battle of Bulge was a glorious victory for the Allies. Right? Well, what did the Germans really use in the Battle of the Bulge? The Germans considered it a victory. Because the tanks that got destroyed in the Battle of the Bulge, the Germans didn't need. They had replacement tanks on the Eastern Front.
Because you need people to be happy.
No, but the point is, there are multiple ways of looking at history, and Herodotus was the first historian, the seeker of truth. And in his histories, he tries to give a description of what happened, and the only way you can do that is by going to everybody and asking everyone's opinion. Which is why he has more than one version of the Spartans being betrayed at the Battle of Thermopylae.
I think they were probably betrayed.
Well, they clearly were, but who betrayed them? There's multiple versions that Herodotus talks about. There's multiple versions, because there were two people accused of betraying the Spartans, but only one of them was murdered, which is why he sort of sides with that, because a country isn't going to pay money to have someone murdered if they think he didn't do it. So it's a toss-up. It's history. And you should always look at history. If someone tells you something historical, this is a note to anyone who's interested in history. If someone tells you something, dig deeper. Don't take the word for it.
Like the Atlas Pass.
Yeah, like the Dyatlov Pass. How many versions of the story have we got? We've got the official version, which is a bunch of people went up there, got lost and froze to death. And then there's the
Avalanche.
Then there's the avalanche theory. Then there's the space. Oh yeah, I wasn't going to mention the space aliens. The space aliens. Yeah, flying saucers.
US Marines.
US Marines secretly going in, killing
Hikers.
Russian hikers because they do. So you get all these different theories and stuff.
A fire.
And then you get the actual report, which was done by the KGB, which actually looks realistic, which is where it was a series of accidents led to the death of everybody, which is what I think is the most likely.
Yes,
I know you don't buy that.
Yes.
You think it was Sasquatch.
I do not think it's Sasquatch. Okay. Why would he do it? What would he be doing on top of a mountain whilst cold?
Eating small Russians.
He doesn't do that. He just Bigfoot just likes to live in a nice warm environment.
Yeah, he prefers to
And
live
live alone.
Yeah, he lives in the huge forests they have in America, and they steal people's sandwiches when they're in a tent. That's what it is. Yeah. Personally, I think it's a guy in a suit, but who cares? Anyway, we've got completely derailed again now. I was just talking about history. Yes, always treat everything with a pinch of salt. Obviously, big things that happen tend to be the true, because a lot of people all have the same version. Angel of Mons. There was definitely something in the sky. The Germans say it was a Zeppelin. The British said it was an angel.
We are a Christian country.
Yeah, I think it was a Zeppelin personally, but even the French said it was probably a Zeppelin as well. But they said it was a French Zeppelin. They said it wasn't a German Zeppelin. But then again, there's so many people wrote about it at the time.
And the Americans saw it on radar.
They didn't have radar. So actually the Americans would have said it was the Russians. Because remember, everything's the Russians.
And the Syrians.
And the Syrians. The Russians and Syrians do everything. If you stub your toe, it's the Syrians or the Russians somewhere behind it.
All because they lost the Grand National.
So,
like me.
Oh, I lost the Grand National. My horse fell. Yeah, that's me. That's about my life. That.
First fence.
No, it's supposed to be a joke saying your horse drops at the first fence, but mine did. So
mine was like at the last in the end.
Yeah.
Recall.
Your mother's was fifth. So
yeah.
Anyway. Sorry, where were we? Yes, history. So anyway, he gets put in charge of the Greek army. the Persian army
Converts, does it agree?
to lead the second invasion of Greece. And again, he does an island hopping campaign from both directions at the same time with fleets, and he successfully invades Greece. He kills King Leonidas, who is at his feet here. That looks awesome. And defeats the Spartans, which helps to unite Greece. And he burns Athens. And then he fights the Battle of Salamis, where the Persians are defeated. So then he presses Xerxes. There's a meeting after the Battle of Salamis. It's a big naval battle. I'll go into that one later. There's too much history here to go over all in one video. He fights the battle. They fight the Battle of Salamis. They lose. The Persians lose. The Athenians win. They evacuate the whole of Athens to go and live on an island, and all of Greece, apart from the traitor states, fight against the Persians. And he approaches Darius, and he says, "This is Mardonius again." And he asks him.
He approaches Xerxes. Xerxes.
Sorry, did I say Darius?
Yeah.
Sorry, he's dead at this point, Darius. He approaches King Xerxes, and he says, "Look, we've nearly won. We haven't defeated the Athenians yet, but we can just whittle them down over time. They can't survive out there on an island so long. What we need to do is occupy the rest of Greece, keep an army in Greece, and just defeat the states one by one, just crush Greece." And then you have Artemisia, who was an admiral in the Persian navy, who leads the Carian contingent, the Greeks from Caria. And she tries to persuade Xerxes that the best idea is for Xerxes to go back to Persia.
Persia was really backwards, wasn't it, really? The
Why?
king's supposed to be the person giving orders to the generals. The generals are all making him do stuff.
Yes, it really would appear that way. It would appear that
I wonder why it never works.
Xerxes was quite a weak king who relied on his advisors to decide what he should do. But in the end, it was still his. Yeah, but it still is his decision. And these advisors have been around since the time of Cyrus, some of them. So these are old men who know what they're talking about generally.
Clearly not.
Clearly not, because they had no experience of Greeks. So, anyway, Artemisia says, this is a great idea. What you should do is, you should go home and leave Mardonius to crush the Greeks. And I think the reason she pushed for this was, I will do a separate video on her, but I think the reason she pushed for this idea was she was hoping that Mardonius would get himself killed, and another loyalist would be placed in charge of Greece, which would be her.
In the next best.
Yeah, so I think she was sort of hoping Mardonius would fail.
But didn't
Yes.
No, so did she.
I haven't got to the end of the story yet. She threw herself off a cliff in the end, so...
The film's not very historically accurate, is it? Really?
It is actually. It is actually quite historically accurate. They get a few things wrong, such as the Persian ships are seen as huge and the Athenian ships are small, whereas in fact the Athenian ships are enormous and the Persian ships are tiny. The only triremes in existence at that period of history were the Athenian fleet, who they were purpose-built warships. The only ships that could take them on really were Artemisia's ships. Hence the film. Anyway. So Xerxes puts Mardonius in charge of the army. There's anything, depending on which source you believe, there's anything from 250,000 Persian troops occupying Greece to 40,000 troops occupying Greece. Take your pick. Just take your pick. Anyway, Mardonius does more or less the same as he's famous for now, which is he occupies Greece, or at least the parts of Greece that are occupied, and he tries to fight the Greeks. He tries to fight the Greeks on the ground, and he keeps the fleet to supply his troops. This is important. He always made sure his lines of supply were open.
Yes, he had a escape route.
So he was a good commander. He knew what he was doing. Now, this ends with Mardonius marches into Athens for the second time, which has already been burnt, and he burns it again. Clearly there were a few chairs and tables he hadn't set fire to at that point. And then he has a change of heart and says, tell you what, he sends a message to the Athenians and says, tell you what, I'll rebuild Athens. The Persian Empire will rebuild Athens and make it twice as great as it was before. We'll put shiny things on the roads, we'll put statues up, we'll build a huge statue of that woman, you know, the one with the shield and thing that Britain uses as their emblem. Victory. And we'll build this, it'll be great. And all you have to do is come back, live here, and live under the Persians. And the Athenians obviously tell him to get stuffed.
For some reason. I mean, it's a perfect deal. It's a great deal. You don't have no democracy doesn't have to spend any money on building Athens.
Yeah, well...
And after you finish building it, you can just stab in the back. It's very easy.
That would have been a good one. Allow the Persians to rebuild Athens, and then kick the Persians out.
It's like the exact same thing as they did to the Spartans way back in the day.
So what you're saying is the Greeks didn't think things through?
No.
Anyway, this video is getting quite long. I do apologise. But...
These are history videos.
Yeah, so. Well, yeah, kind of. They're really about the figures.
They want long figures. They want long videos anyway. So.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, where was that? What just happened?
Right. What just happened is he just said he's going to rebuild Athens, but the Greeks turned down.
Yes, he said he'd rebuild Athens, and the Greeks turned him down.
And they cried.
The Athenians landed all their troops and marched towards Plataea. They met the Spartans, and here's an interesting one. They made a deal with the Spartans. The Athenians would come under Spartan command. The Athenian army will be entirely under control of the Spartans. And the Spartan king, who incidentally didn't actually want to go to war in the first place, said, wow, we're the rulers of Greece. This is amazing. This is awesome. We're going to back the Athenians. So that was great, and the Spartans only wanted one thing: they wanted the control of the entire Greek navy. So the Spartans gave them the entire Spartan navy, and all the allies. The Athenians gave the Athenians the entire Spartan navy, and that was sorted. And they marched to the valley of Plataea. Now, Plataea is a large mountain range with a valley in the middle, which is where Plataea is. The town of Plataea is a bit further down, which is where the Persians are garrisoned, and they put a huge wooden wall around the town. And the Persian army was deployed in the valley, and the Spartans and all the Athenians, all the other allied troops, were deployed on the top of the mountain, or halfway up the valley. So they were in a position of high ground. And for 5 days, the Persians sat and looked at the Spartans and Athenians, and the Athenians stared back at the Persians, and nothing was happening. So Mardonius ordered his light cavalry to go all the way up to the top of the mountain and foul up the stream that fed where the Greeks were getting their water from. So they went up and fouled it up. Not sure how they fouled it up. I would presume it would include going to the toilet. But it was pretty disgusting, and they fouled the stream up, which meant the Greeks now had no water. The only way they could get water was by marching through the Persian army to the river. Right, to get water. Back then you could drink out of rivers. Not like now. Rivers have strange foam and tend to be an odd colour, but, you know. But rivers shouldn't be blue.
And have some sort of weird sewer pipe there for some reason.
Weird sewer pipes, and often dead bodies floating in them if you live in Sheffield. But, anyway...
And plastic bags as well.
Hey, Manchester's worse for dead bodies. I mean, the amount of people they've fished out of their canals. I think we're on 80 odd now, aren't we? 88 people found float down in the canal. Put a fence around the canal, for God's sake. Just put a fence around it and maybe a sign saying don't fall in the canal.
Don't dump bodies in this canal.
Please don't dump bodies in this canal. Anyway, it may be a serial killer, but we don't know.
88 people is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. That's just the bodies they've found. Anyway, I've derailed myself again. No, Plataea, yeah. So the Spartans and the Athenian allies marched down the hill to face the Persians. and the Persians march up the bit of the hill to meet them, and the battle lines are drawn. And if you watch the film 300, you will remember a scene where
Right at the end,
where the guy with a patch on his eye
he's giving a speech.
is giving a speech, and he says, "We're all here," and blah blah blah, and then he leads a charge. He charges. Now, this guy was called the Trembler by the Spartans because he came home from. He was one of only 2 Spartans to return after the big famous battle, and the Spartans thought that was cowardice. The fact that the guy had left.
Should have given him a note, Leonidas, shouldn't he?
Yeah, should have given him a sick note,
Yeah.
saying, "I've ordered him to go home."
Because he had an arrow in the eye.
Eye disease. So, there was lots of eye diseases around at the time. It was very common according to Herodotus.
According to Herodotus.
Yes.
Everything.
Sorry, but when you come talking about Greece, everything is according to Herodotus because he was the only guy writing anything down at the time. He was probably the only guy who could write, to be honest.
Thank you very
He
much.
says, "I've invented writing in books."
Thank you very much.
Or scrolls, actually. "I've invented writing, I'm going to write everything down."
Thank you very much for Herodotus.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy charges the Persian line on his own, hacks down half a dozen Persians, and then dies. And that sort of cheers the Spartans up a bit. and the Spartans just go, "Get him!" and just charge, which wasn't what normally happened. The battle was really messy, there was lots of fighting, and there was a point where the Spartans had been pushed back and the Spartans broke and ran away. But it wasn't actually breaking and running away, it was actually a feint to get the Persians to start moving, and then they turned and killed the Persians, and then they rolled the Persians up. The Athenians beat the living daylights out of the other Greeks who'd changed sides, the ones who Leonidas hadn't trusted.
Oh yeah.
The Thebans. And the battle went really badly it was starting to go really badly for the Persians. So this chap rode up on his white horse, yes, best way to get the enemy to see you, rode up on his white horse with 1,000 bodyguard in order to hack away at the Spartans. And so the story goes, a Spartan who had lost his spear and his sword was broken, picked up a rock and threw it at Mardonius, hit him on the side of the head, and killed him, which was actually a prophecy.
Very embarrassing, by the way.
Yeah, it is very embarrassing. A Spartan killing someone with a brick, yeah.
Killing a general with
a rock, yeah. So Mardonius died, and the Persian army broke and ran. Apart from the bodyguard, who were massacred to a man. Every single man died, all 1,000 of them. So they ran away back to the town of Plataea. The Spartans then set fire to Plataea, because wooden walls are rubbish, because they burn. And eventually the remnants of the Persian army retreated to the Hot Gates, which is where the whole thing had started in the beginning. This coincided with a naval battle. This is where the Athenians come back into the story. This coincided with a naval battle where the Persian navy was destroyed by the Athenian navy, which ended the lines of supply. That means the Persian army was now going to starve to death. Bad luck for the Persians. So the Spartans, one of the Spartan chaps who'd helped kill the Persian general, suggested to the Persian king. Suggested to the Spartan king that it would be a good idea to cut off Mardonius' head and put it on a spike, and then wave it around above the army. And the Spartan king said, "We're not barbarians, we don't do things like that." But the whole reason he wanted to do it is because that's what happened to Leonidas. So the Spartans said, no, we're not going to do that. That man is silly, nobody talk to him again, he's very strange, you want to cut people's heads off and put them on spikes, that's weird. It's really weird. And so everyone just sort of made fun of the guy. Anyway, I think I mentioned this in one of our other videos. They got into Mardonius' tent. He had a huge tent. battle tent, an army tent. And it was full of gold plate and everything, and there was all this food all over the table, gorgeous food. And all the generals, the Greek generals, were all stood in this tent open-mouthed, because they'd never seen so much food before in their lives. And one of the Laconians said, "What exactly were the Persians invading us for? They're trying to steal our poverty?"
Yeah, you said that before.
Yeah, I don't know. Did I mention it in a video?
Yeah.
Ah, right. Sorry. In that case, if you've heard that before, it's cringeworthy. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have repeated it, but I weren't sure whether I'd done it in a video before. Anyway, so that was the end of Mardonius, and that is the figure you have here in front of you. That is a very long video for one figure.
Well, because this is a singular video, so you have to go into the history of the guy, so people know who he is.
Yeah, and that is one of the reasons we're doing a Greek project. And in answer to everybody who's been messaging me, yes, we're doing a Greek project.
Oh wow! You ain't gone to that yet.
I've talked to people in chat, and I've told people, yeah, some people know. We are doing a Greek project. We were supposed to have a battle soon. However, we've had a bit of difficulty sourcing the bases. So I have all these figures. I haven't got no bases for them. I've got a huge amount of clear plastic bases for all our other stuff, but none of these. So
what crisis at the moment? You can't find any bases. I'm trying to fix my guitar.
Yeah, your guitar's broken. It's terrible, isn't it? It's awful. And we've just bombed Russia.
And we just bombed. No, we didn't.
Oh, we bombed Syria.
Right, I was about to say.
Sorry. We didn't bomb Russia. We ran away. But so that's the news. So this is Mardonius. So with each figure or unit, I will go into the history of them, if there's much history to actually be had. Obviously, there's not a lot to be said for a lot of the stuff. Pass the bag. Isn't that cool? So that's Mardonius. The figure, in case anyone's interested, in case anyone's still watching at this point, the figure is part of the command pack from Wargames Foundry. It's a command pack of Persian officers, and you also get King Xerxes in it as well, or King Darius, which will be another video. Definitely. And you get quite a few interesting little things in that, some standard bearers. You will be seeing a lot more of those later. I think you've already seen some of them. So that's it. That's pretty much the end of that. Over to questions.
I was doing the questions with him.
You've done all the questions?
Yeah.
Oh, that's depressing, isn't it? I was looking forward to that. I like the question bit.
There were the questions.
Yeah.
I gave some.
What do you think to King Leonidas?
He got green for some reason.
He probably died with a smile on his face. I mean, after all, the Spartan loves to die with a smile on his face. Don't worry, there's going to be a completely separate video for King Leonidas.
Oh, God.
And that's going to be a good one. That's going to be really good. Yes, I am building a Leonidas stand. I think I'm going to have to put it on one of the really large bases, because I don't think it's going to fit on one of these small ones.
Xerxes should be put on a throne.
I was going to put Xerxes on a throne, but there are a few technical considerations to consider, and I've come up with the version that I've got, which I think fitted in quite well.
Yes,
Yeah, but I am working on. I've got an idea for another Xerxes figure based on the 300 film.
A lot of gold stuff needed.
Yeah, lots of gold and stuff.
And not a lot of clothing, but a lot of gold piercings.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm working on a few things related to the 300 film, as well as the reality things. This is a reality figure. All the stuff I've shown you so far is reality based, but we are doing Hades. So we've got some stuff to show you for that, which will be another video. And if we had all the time in the world, we could do it all at once, but we don't. But at least we're back into making videos, so
indeed,
that's good. And your exams are soon, aren't they?
4 weeks now.
4 weeks away. Then you'd be a grump. You'd be a grown-up.
No, because I might get conscripted into the army as well.
Oh, sorry, yeah, they're bringing in conscription, aren't they? Yeah, Theresa May wants to conscript all the young boys to go and die in Syria for some reason.
Yeah, die for my country.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Dying in the
very
desert.
patriotic.
Yeah, that's good. I got some interesting stories I could tell you about that too, but that's another video.
I don't mind wearing armour and blowing people's heads off.
Yeah, you don't get... The armour's rubbish.
Looks cooler.
No, get your own.
Looks pretty cool.
Get your own. I'll get you some. Don't worry. I'll get you some.
Still looks cool.
Yeah, I'll get you some decent armour. The stuff you get issued as pants, honestly, is useless. You may as well wear lamellar.
Yeah, my brother's fine. He's not gonna get conscripted.
He's already had army training, so.
Yeah, he's not gonna get conscripted, though, is he?
No, he's in a reserved occupation.
He's a nurse.
He's a nurse. So you hate him now, don't you?
Yeah, I hate his guns.
I wonder. I mean, Herodotus was he? No, Herodotus fought in the Shield Wall. So no, even historians had to fight back then. So you're sorry. You get given a shield and a spear and a red cloak.
I'll try to pull him when I'm out there, just like Wilfred Owen.
Oh God, war poems, please don't. I hate war poems.
I'll write a war poem.
Bang, 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 bang,
The
bang.
Syrians are coming, bang, 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 oh no, bang, bang, oh no, we're dead.
Anyway, I think that finishes the video. It's gone on too long already. Over to you to sign out.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and enjoy. And leave a comment down below if you want me to write a poem when I'm in the war.
You could do a YouTube vlog.
Well, a YouTube vlog lasts the entire time of my war.
Yeah, you could be sat there with the camera on your face, reading a poem, while you see your friends getting bayoneted to death behind you by Spetsnaz.
I'm not going to fight at the front, mate. I'm going to be at the back.
Yeah, well, whatever you do, if the Americans say they're going to give you fire support, run. Just run because they will. Just don't call in for...
I'll make sure I'm not a tank crew either.
Whatever you do not ask the Americans to help. They've got a sense of direction of a bumblebee. You've heard the joke in the Second World War. If the bombing raid arrives on time, it's German. If it arrives late, it's British. If it fails to arrive at all, it's the other way around. No, so it's the other way around. Sorry, what was it? That was a joke about the German Air Force. What is it? If it hits the target, it's German. If it misses the target, it's British. And if it lands on your head, it's American.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
That was it. And there was another one about everyone ducking. If the British come over, the Germans duck. If the Germans come over, the British duck. If the Americans come over, both duck. Yeah, there's all sorts of jokes at that time. Yeah. I'm not going to go into all this too many. Over to you for the outro.
Done it.
You've done the outro, right. Thank you. We should have ended ages ago. So thank you very much for watching. What are you still doing? You haven't got a life? You got something to do? Go.
You can't say anything.
I ain't got a life. No. Right. Thank you very much for watching. It's goodbye from me.
No vampires. We died a while ago.
I'm waiting for the goodbye from him.
I've already said that.
Oh. Bye.